So welcome back. In today's video, let's see what we are going to cover. Previously, we have talked about some basic introduction about software engineering, and then we looked into some of these software engineering models. And today, we are going to talk about your BPM, BRMS, and your SOA. This BPM stands for your business process modeling, and your BRMS stands for business rule management system, and your SOA stands for service oriented architecture. Let's quickly go through all these topics. So start with what basically your BPM is, which is your business process modeling. Now, any particular business is run as a set of business processes. So it becomes very important to identify and model the business process activities. Along with these activities, I need to identify the roots with these business processes. So in simple terms, your BPM is nothing but the graphical representation and this graphical representation is of your company's business processes. And workflows as well. Now, this is basically done through different graphing methods. It can be done through flowcharts. It can be done through your diagrams or any particular graphical representation. So this business process modeling is basically used in your business process management. This thing is also your BPM only, so don't get confused. And this is basically an activity in order to represent all the processes of an enterprise or an organization so that the processes can be analyzed and these processes can be further improved. So why we do all these things is for the sake of analysis and to identify that if there is any scope of improvement or not. Like all these processes are drawn and made visually available with the help of these diagrams. And this is basically done by your business analysts. Right. So the key role of business analyst is to come up with these business process models. On top of it, we'll have some SMEs as well, your subject matter experts, who will be giving some inputs about the business processes. Now, since we got to know that this BPM is that coming up with these diagrams in order to analyze and in order to improve. So this business having all these graphical representation of all the business processes is of course good, but without the correct implementation, it is of hardly any use. So this business process modeling actually leads you to BPI, which is your business process improvement. So all the processes in the business which are involved are improved. This also leads to your business process re-engineering, BPR, where R stands for re-engineering. So it is basically the same thing as your business process improvement, with the main difference between how you are going to change the process. Your business process re-engineering deals with more major changes to the processes, like incorporating some technology in order to completely change the way of the work done. So there are several advantages of going ahead with this business process modeling, such as by all these improvements, I can definitely talk about the process agility, right? Agility in the process. Means we'll be eventually able to develop a culture of innovation and change, because I'll be able to analyze, I'll be able to visualize. On top of it, I can also improve the overall efficiency as well, because I'll be improving the way of processes are done. Means we'll be able to find out different ways to improve these processes which are there in my business. And of course there will be transparency as well. That means everyone within the organization will be aware about the processes and the flows. Means how it is operated, what is the actual goal. So that would be leading to the accountability, right? For example, if in a business process, or maybe let's say in our university, I know the process of, let's say, looking for getting the marks reviewed. So okay, instead of directly going to the head of the department every time, the process is let's talk to the instructor first, and then later on move towards the head of the department if required. So that's a business process. Now let's take some more examples, right? Let's consider a retail banking, right? In our example, we are taking a retail banking. So some of the business processes of the bank are operating a saving account, operating the current account. Bank can offer and manage some loans, and offering and managing your health management schemes, right? Then let's examine the business process of a loan management. So we guess I assume that everyone is aware about the activities involved in this particular loan management, right? So let's take this example. So what we do is we'll be going ahead with the modeling of this particular business process, which is your loan management. BPM for a loan management. So what we have is, we are considering a retail bank, and let's examine the business process activities of a loan management. So what we are going to do is, we have this start and we have this stop, and there will be some processes in between. Right, this is the entire process of a loan management, right? This is the entire chain for a loan management, where we have this start, we have this two stops, in between there are several activities, and let's analyze those. So you can analyze this particular thing when we have your BPM and SOA, where SOA stands for service oriented architecture, in a way that we have this start, and then we have the process step 1. Something can be there, right? What is there, we'll see. We can have a process step 2, and so on and so forth, right? So we can have a process step N. In between, I can have, like for this process, I can have some services. Let's say service A. Here I may have like service A and service B as well. So all these processes will be going for, let's say, service XYZ. So in this case, this particular thing we have is, we have like BPM and your service oriented architecture. What basically the architecture is, we'll talk about that particular thing separately in next few slides. Just assume that architecture is nothing but a high level design of the application to be built. So BPM alone would require custom coding for each system integration, whereas along with SOA, like it will orchestrate the people and services into a business process. So coming back to our same loan management example, what we have is, we have like first thing, so we went for a start and we saw that let's display and get the loan application and validate the fields. So this is what my first screen will do, and this is my first process. And that's how the regular way is, that okay, I let's say go to ICICI Bank's website, so I'll be able to see a particular form and I'll enter it. The validation takes place at the back end. So you can call it as a screen 1 for a process 1, right? Just like I was explaining in this particular thing, process step 1, process step 2, process step N. Similarly, we have here that okay, this is my first step. Now what will happen in the next step? Let's underwrite the loan application automatically and manually. Right, that's the next step. That's the next screen with the next process step. Afterwards, I see a different box, diamond box, very much familiar. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to check with the help of a condition that can the loan be sanctioned. So in this condition, I'm going to check that can the loan be sanctioned. In a general process, so what is happening is that I have this business process modeling along with all these service oriented architecture as well. See, one thing is, like let's say I went for the underwriting the loan application automatically and manually. Now this condition can be done after several conditions. That would be through the several services, right? It can be your credit score, right? It can be whether based on your salary a particular amount of loan can be given or not, right? Instead of, let's say, 30 lakhs, you're only eligible to get 20 lakhs of loan. Then all those things checked, and then this particular condition comes into picture. Now from here I have like two options. Either the services will say yes or no. Either the services will say yes or no. So when it says no, of course I'll move to this particular block where I'm going to reject and I'm going to close the application. Right, on this side I'll offer the loan and I'll ask for managing the repayments and all. So see, this is one of the examples, because here also I may give a chance to the customer further to reapply after several FAQs or after several questionnaires. It depends on the process my business model has. Right, it depends on the process, because I may give a second chance here. Once I found that no, the loan cannot be given, let me have a look at it. That is there any scope? I may ask for, let's say these days, I may ask for the gold possessed by that particular customer, so I can have a gold loan kind of scheme. And all these things totally depends on the kind of business process I have. Now one thing to note is, whenever we are going ahead with BPM and SOA, then we have several advantages as explained in this particular thing, that along with the diagram of your business process modeling, I have these services, right? These services. So I'm going ahead with BPM and SOA in hand, right? So there are some advantages if I take this thing together. For example, I'll be able to discover the services. Right, that means those services where in this case we were talking about, matching for this thing, let's say in this example also, whether we were looking for these credit scores and all. So I can discover the services in which I can look for services already available. Right, services to be added. If I need to add few new services, I'll take a call on that. Plus specifying the services as well. That means services to be created, not to be added. That means I need to create a service. Let's say in case of your credit card approval, I take a call that, okay, let's come up with a virtual credit card. So I need to create this particular service. Specifying the services also gives me an option of enhancing the product as well. Although it is a way far thing, because right now we are visualizing it, but since we are doing it, so we are also getting a plus point in this case. Then what we can do in this particular thing is that I can go for simulation and optimization. I can go for simulation and optimization. In which what I can do is I can identify the key performance indicator. I can estimate the parameters. And on top of it, I can compare the scenarios as well. And all this is becoming possible just by combining my business process modeling and the service oriented architecture. So in any business process modeling, these round circles are nothing but your event, that is name or the source, and these rectangles with curved ends are representing the activity, and these diamond boxes are gateway, right, whether to go to a particular direction or not. And then these arrows are for sequence flow. Right, simple, these things forming events. Rest, these ones for activities. This is the gateway, and your arrows are for the sequence flow. A very simple notation and very easy to create, very easy to handle. So in case of BPM, I have this business process model design, the notations which we are talking about. Then I have this business process model execution language and engine. It can be your any, let's say for this I have like business process execution language for web services, which is BPL for WS. These are like IBM, Microsoft, Oracle. These companies offer good number of business process modeling tools as well. And not only these days I see small companies also offering these BPM tools as well. So some of the benefits of these BPM, although I have already talked about the benefits of the BPM approach, like by explicitly modeling, analyzing, coding and executing your business process, I can easily adapt to the market change and bring in process changes. See, everything is visualized now. Right, let's say I have this BPM and SOA of a banking system which is 10 years old, and all of a sudden one day the concept of UPI gets introduced. UPI, everyone is aware of, I guess. You're very familiar, unified payment interface. Interface or interchange? I guess it's interface only. Yeah. So now I need to add to this. Now since I have all my business process modeling tools and I have these BPMs and my SOA, so I know where to introduce this particular UPI. Right, and I'll be easily able to adapt those market changes as well. If there are some issues, I can identify the bottlenecks, and based on that I can eliminate or reduce the inefficiencies. Right, so what we have is in this business process modeling, I can have the process flow charts, right. I can have this business process modeling notation, right, or you can call it as BPMN, which is business process modeling notation as well. I can have DFDs as well. I can take help of anything. Now the question arises on how to do business process modeling. So it basically involves 3 simple steps, but before that let's look into the advantages and then we'll go ahead with that. Now this business rule modeling system is something like any business process has a set of business rules, and these business rules make the operation of business consistent and transparent. Right, so I have like considering a retail bank example. Now let's examine the business process of your loan management. So some of the rules are like the loan eligibility rule, which we were talking about previously, loan underwriting rules, loan approval rules, loan rate rules. Based on my credit ranking, I can get, let's say, a home loan for, let's say, 8%, or I can get for it as for 7%, I can get it for, let's say, 6.9%. It depends on the credit and the rate rules. Then loan repayment default rules. If someone is a defaulter in repaying the loan, then there will be some rules. Then I have like premature closing of rules, right? So for anything and everything I have some rules. Let's take some example as well. For example, loan approval, the same one which we were talking about. So if my loan type is a home loan and the applicant's age is greater than or equal to 60, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to reject, because I know that okay, home loan can be for, let's say, 20-30 years. So how this person is going to pay me? Similarly, for loan rates, I may have a separate rule that if the loan duration is less than or equal to 2 years, then my loan rates will be 5%, right? So I can have this business rule modeling system. I can have these rules. Now the only thing is that, see, these are just set of numbers which I have taken for the sake of explanation, right? These things can vary, or these things may not be applicable at all. So your propositional or the predicate logic based rule languages, your OPS 5, very popular one, OPS 5, and your rate based rule engines are like very popular. For that we have like iLog, then we have your Fair Isaac, we have Yasu Technology, we have Pega Softwares, Pega, a very popular company, who all are the leaders in this BRMS space as well. Like Pega is a very, very popular name. Now let's formally also talk about SOA as well. So service oriented architecture, where we have like any business process consists of offers which utilizes a set of business services. Now consider a retail bank and examine the business process of loan management. There are business services such as your loan application. I can have a display loan application. I can have a display loan eligibility rule. I can validate the loan applications. For underwriting, apply loan underwriting rules automatically and I can generate the score. I can facilitate the manual modification to the score with reasons by some experts. I can go ahead with loan closure activity. I can go ahead with loan sanctioning. I can go ahead with loan payment management services as well. So basically your service oriented architecture is a style of software design where services are provided to the other components by application components. Right. So a service has like several properties. For example, it logically represents a business activity. It becomes a self-contained and it can be your black box for its customer as well. So, in case of service-oriented architecture, it is basically a way to make software components reusable via service interfaces. These interfaces utilize your common communication standards in such a way that they can be rapidly incorporated into new applications without having to perform any deep integration every time. Right. So that means basically your SOA is a software, let me change the pen, a software development model which allows your services to communicate across different platforms and languages in order to form applications. This service-oriented architecture allows these services to communicate using a loose coupling system to either pass the data or coordinate an activity. So it's like this SOA is letting you to go for interoperability. This interoperability will be between apps and services. So there are like several ways to implement it. It's like this particular thing, service oriented architecture, is independent of the vendor and technology. That means like a wide variety of the products can be used to implement the architecture. Right, so things will be much more clearer when we'll go ahead with your basic definitions of architecture, but at this moment of time, let's stick to these definitions only. Now let's go ahead with the question on how to do business process modeling, because all these topics are dealing along with all these lines only. So now let's answer to this particular question on how to go ahead with business process modeling. So see, the first point is that no one size fits all solution for business process modeling. See, at the end of the day, it really depends on what you are trying to achieve. So what we have is like we have 3 steps. One is model existing process. That means whatever is there, let's model it. That means let's use one of the business process modeling techniques to put the process you are working with down on the paper or with the help of some softwares. Another one is identify inefficiencies and the potential improvements. That means I need to identify that how well is the process performing. Is it actually efficient or not? And am I able to meet my operational goals with these processes or not? Are there any steps in the processes that are wasteful? Right, so I need to identify, I need to find the answers. That's why I go ahead with business process modeling. Then design to be process. Now design the new and the improved process based on your findings in this step. And finally make it a workable model. Right, and that's how we can go ahead with this business process modeling. That means the very first step is that model the existing process and identify the inefficiencies, and I can identify some improvements, potential improvements as well. Once I've done it, let's design to be process. That means now let's design the new and the improved process depending on what all I have identified in this particular step. And then finally put everything into practice. Because I have identified, first of all, I have modeled the existing process. Means whatever way I am going ahead with, it can be, a loan application, it can be, let's say, a grade awarding system. I have identified the process, I have modeled it. Now I am trying to identify the problems associated with it and the inefficiencies in the system and the improvements. And then I'm going to redesign this. That means I'm going to model my business process. I'm going to model my business process. Right, so let's quickly summarize what we have done. Identify and model, that's what our actual aim is. Right, in this particular thing, our actual aim is identify and model. So the business process and the activities and routings among the processes is something which is to be identified. The set of business rules present in each business operations I have identified. The service components of each business operations to be considered. So this is all about your business process modeling and your BRMS, which is business rule modeling system, and your service oriented architecture, which is your SOA. So in the next video, we'll talk about evolution of the architecture. We'll look into evolution of your enterprise architecture. Basically, we'll also talk about some basics about architectures, software architectures, a cycle which was before introducing software architecture in the software development life cycles. So all these things we'll see in our next video.